our end, which is pre-configured in a remote desktop connection. So the agenda for the day is try to understand how does SAP Business Object Data Services help us in a SAP landscape. What is the perspective of this EIM tool over on SAP family specifically? Then we'll try to understand how it looks like and what are the components or objects it's having it. And then at the end you will get a chance to ask question, or you can clear set up two topics as an agenda for this session. The first one is a SAP landscape, and the second one the overview of business object data services, so that you can understand how it looks and feels in compared to other ETL environment we are having it. Well, what I'm trying to make you understand by SAP landscape is how this SAP Business Object Data Services, other SAP tools, and also how it associates with them, and what is the importance of your data services over on SAP family. You can understand the perspective of business object data services in more broader way. To see 360-degree overview about SAP business object perspective in SAP family, we need to draw the landscape diagram. To talk about the landscape, we must need to understand what SAP is and what it is popular of. Well, I'm not going to talk about the company itself, but SAP AG, which is a German-based company, has these all applications, which I'm going to draw it out. So SAP AG is popular because of its ERP application. So as a result, what I can see it, we have a system dedicated for SAP and non-SAP both. We have system dedicated for SAP and non-SAP both. Whereas the popularity of SAP ERP we cannot forget, and we'll keep it as a SAP system. At the same time, we do have other system which is dedicated system by SAP, like SAP CRM, SRM, etc., etc. So this part is my nothing but SAP ERP and CRM or SRM individually to be as a SAP system or SAP sources. This area is nothing but my non-SAP sources. In which I can mention all the databases which I am accessing, and the flat files relates to non-SAP sources or various other frameworks we are having it. Well, we know that if it comes to accessing data from SAP ERP, it is a little tricky and it is little complex. Well, to do that, we have a certified system given by SAP called SAP BW. SAP BW is an application which supports us to have it data taken from SAP ERP or SAP system as well as non-SAP system. This application plays a great role into the SAP family and has an importance as a second largest generator in the category, where this tool was dedicated for its end-to-end feature for data warehousing. Means this application is dedicated with end-to-end data warehousing solution, where the functionality and the extractors which has been given into the BW has been dedicated with extraction procedures and extraction of the data, which can make your SAP ERP data comfortably taken into that environment for the further use of analytics. So because of this ease of extraction, this application has highest demand in the market to be used as an end-to-end solution. Well, because of that end-to-end solution, the clients are demanding this tool to be enhanced more and more. Whereas, when we talk about end-to-end data warehousing, we cannot forget that end-to-end data warehousing consists of the three different solutions. We do need to have modeling, we need to have ETL, and we need to have reporting solution. So all this addition together, what we are getting are nothing but a design called data warehouse. In data warehousing, these all solutions are integrated together and which built up nothing but the warehouse, which we call it end-to-end data warehousing. In this end-to-end data warehousing, our modeling feature is robust, my ETL feature is robust, but the reporting feature inside the BW is lagging or not up to the scenario, not up to the market we are having it. Where all the clients, those who are using SAP BW, are trying to or forcing SAP to enhance this part of the solution. Well, as a result, what SAP did, SAP finalized its acquisition of a third-party company called Business Object in 2008. They got a specific BI tool already well-placed into the market called Business Object Business Intelligence. And by integrating it to the BW, they start getting high-level reporting functionality and flexible reporting functionality to meet today's scenarios and to meet today's requirement. At the same time, the innovation of one of the in-memory computing engine called SAP HANA has been happened. Well, this in-memory computing engine has a well integration with SAP BW environment. So you may can see it and you may can start saying that as we are discussing about BODS, why this BW has been centralized and taken center of attraction where the BODS need to be do that. Well, not to forget that this is not a center of attraction. My center of attraction is always there as a BODS. But my point is to highlight the landscape in a better way so that it can be easy to understand the perspective of BODS in a wider space or a 360 degrees view on the landscape. So as I was saying that SAP HANA innovation has been happened by Kapil Sikka at the same time, which has been integrated to SAP BW as well. And the certified reporting tool for SAP HANA is Business Object Business Intelligence. Well, at the same time, in 2008, where the acquisition of Business Object company has been finalized by SAP, in that acquisition, SAP has got another application called SAP Business Object Data Services. And this tool was dedicated with the functionality of extraction, transformation, and loading. As it is an independent ETL tool or independent EIM tool, Enterprise Information Management Tool, it has its own role and importance. Previously, we had an ETL concept which cannot be utilized outside. As it was facilitated in BW was adequately using it, but that functionality cannot be used separately if you want. As a result, once SAP got the BODS, they have got the key to open one of the largest or widest area where the application is used in industry. For integration purpose or any data integration tools are one of the vital usable tool or application in IT industries. So it is working as a key to open the door of that sector, which we call it EIM, Enterprise Information Management. So by using the BODS, SAP started getting into the ETL category. And what they did, by doing certain enhancement into the environment, what they made an environment single environment for all the operation with ease of use. And as SAP is trending for its ease of use, it makes it more popular in the market and started replacing all the formal or traditional tools we were using, or all the rulers which were there from last couple of decades for ETL category. They started replacing it. The simplicity of this tool and an integration to its various brothers in the SAP family made it more like tool across the globe. As a result, we start getting a lot of implementation and start happening across the globe for business object data services. Specifically, it has replaced one of the famous ETL tool of previous decades called data stage. So mostly in UK and some part of the India, this tool has replaced completely the data stage and has also taken over to the Informatica, which were used to be the leaders, major competitors as of now to the business object data services. The time of the vital use of your SAP BODS has started when it start related, or it start getting related with SAP HANA as well. What I mean by that, it has a proper integration and it has a direct integration to your ERP or SAP application and non-SAP applications. As it is a full-fledged ETL tool, it can directly communicate with SAP system and non-SAP system as well. And the extraction of data won't be taking much complexities to it now. Where this operation, if any of the clients wanted, it was recommended by Informatica previously, as Informatica and SAP is a gold partner. As they are partners, gold partners, they had a better integration functionality facilitated. In Informatica Power Center, we have a services called SAP BW services dedicated to this. Well, at the same time, if you want to have it, any recommended ETL tool to be used, SAP used to recommend it Informatica previously, but not now. As they got its own independent ETL tool, they start recommending it because it has more tight integration compared to other applications facilitated with ETL functionality. As it has a direct integration to BW to facilitate BW to extract the data which are complex and are rigid and also little tricky to handle with. So now the data is taken from BODS and pass it through the BW system. We call it BW powered by BODS. But the powerful thing has been happened when it has been integrated to your SAP HANA system. When it got integrated to SAP HANA system, the boost of SAP BODS has been increased. Well, now we can see that a new architecture of data warehousing has started coming up into the market by facilitating your reporting, ETL, and modeling feature together. So what we are having start coming up into the picture is a new architecture of data warehousing with combination of business object, business intelligence, SAP HANA, and SAP BODS together. As a result, it start catching more eyes in the market in IT industry. Well, not only this integration making it full-fledged ETL tool in the market to be popular in the market, but its simplicity and ease of use to be treated independently in any environment integrated with any of the application, doesn't matter whether it is a SAP or non-SAP system. That's made it more popular and more eye-catching in the market. Well, now BODS can be used as a full-fledged ETL tool anywhere, wherever the ETL functionality is required. At the same time, as it is supporting SAP HANA for data provisioning, it also enhances the capability of SAP HANA on some extent in the 360-degree view of the usability. So this landscape tells us about the perspective of SAP BODS over on SAP family. At the same time, it also gives a perspective of usability outside the framework, outside the SAP landscape. As I mentioned already, it can be taken as an independent ETL tool in the market. But more of the application always intended to focus on to integrate with those applications which are more popular in the market. And as SAP rules the market, they always try to integrate, and they always have the integration with SAP systems. Well, SAP BODS has some of the instances which has been given over here, which communicates directly to its brothers or the elder siblings, like SAP BW, SAP HANA, or business object, business intelligence. But that is not required, because business object, business intelligence, it's a separate and specific business reporting tool, which repository, if need to be moved on to the certain other databases, that time SAP BODS can involve into it. But that is not directly communicating anyhow to the BODS, or not associated with that. But two of the major prime contributors, SAP HANA and BW, is tightly integrated with business object data services, with the instances it's having it. All right. So that is what the landscape, what we are having it with the perspective of business object data services over to the SAP family. Now, we need to investigate and need to find out how it's look and feel over implementation once it is done. That means when we are going to have it, the package of business object data services, how it looks like, what are the distribution tools we are going to have it within it, and what are the purposes of them. To have a look onto that, first I need to understand the package, what it consists of. Now SAP has started calling it SAP BODS for all. That means it can be utilized or it can be used at any point of time to work as a data integration and data profiling tools. Within this distribution, if you are taking a license of BODS, certainly at the beginning of the era, when it has been acquired by SAP, at the time, SAP used to distribute SAP BODS free with business object business intelligence. So under the distribution, under the package, I'm going to get it CMC for enterprise, which is nothing but the central management console, used for all of the business object category tools involved in 12. At the same time, it has been facilitated with its own individual administrative tool. We call it Data Services Administrative Tool or Administrative Console. These are the prime administrative tools we are having it, where CMC Enterprise is specific tool given for the data services if you are only implementing data services at your end. If you are implementing business object as well, the distribution comes as a package. Well, what I mean, CMC is a centralized tool used for entire business object category. Well, SAP has made a category called business object in which they have categorized 3 different solutions. One is business object, business intelligence, BOBJ. Other is ETL solution by BODS. And third is planning and consolidation solution by SAP BOPC. So all 3 tools has one administrative tool common called CMC, which allows them to define the role of users and user creation, credential management, or other stops within it. Well, each of the categories had its own dedicated administrative tool as well for other purposes. At the same time, we have a list of tools which is dedicated as a client tools. Like my data services designer is one of the prime tool on the client side to play around with ETL designing. It is the designing tool available inside SAP Business Object Data Services. In the designing part, we have an involvement of a concept of repository and services which is going to let me execute my design. I mean my integration services and repositories. So for repository management, we have a dedicated tool called Data Services Repository Manager. For integration services, which is going to be called in Business Object Data Services as a job server, has a tool which allows us to configure and maintain my servers, specifically the job servers, which allows us to do execution. So we have a tool over here called Data Services Server Manager. This server manager tool allows us to manage my job server, which allowing or facilitating us with execution right. So these are the application, these are the bunch of package we are having it. Within that, these are the application we are going to take it over to the sessions or in this learning curriculum. So let's have a quick look on these tools so that we can find out how they looks like and what is the behavior of that. Well, before I get into the overview, I would like to highlight the prime tool. What I have it for designing as Data Services Designer. It's one of the prime tool we are having it, our most usable tool within it. All right. At the same time, this tool is facilitated with all the functionalities together on a single environment. Working on an ETL world involves 3 different tasks. The first is your designing task, in which you are doing mapping of your data from source to target by source plus transformation plus target. This is what we do under the mapping. So the first thing under the designing is your designing of your ETL flow. So ETL flow will be mapped together, what we call it mapping. So on the Data Services Designer, there are several tasks we do it in a single environment. One is the designing, other is execution planning, by using Data Services Workflow. And third thing is monitoring of my job which has been executed. So these are the 3 things we usually do it in ETL tools. As functionality I'm talking about. Otherwise, we do thousands of things within the ETL environment. These are the major tasks we do under ETL tool. Designing, execution planning, and monitoring. So we have all these activities done within the single environment in Data Services Designer. So let's have a quick look onto this tool so that we can understand the perspective of it. So this is a remote desktop connection which is pre-configured with all the application required for learning of my BODS data services. You're also going to get it the same environment for your hands-on or your daily practice, which is a predefined or pre-configured remote desktop connection. Well, if I go into the Start All Programs, I'll find there is a folder called SAP Data Services 4.2. In that, if I go into it, I can see that there is a Data Services Designer, there is a Data Services Management Console, there is a Data Services Repository Manager, and there is a Data Services Server Manager. These are the two applications we are having it within the distribution of your SAP Data Services 4.2. As I was saying that, if I'm having only the data services installed, it comes with CMC with the enterprise version. But as the system is configured with not only the business object data services, it do have SAP HANA, BW, ECC, business object, business intelligence. You won't find separately CMC kept up. Whereas the CMC is concerned, you will find that the CMC is available on business object, business intelligence, your server distribution, CMC, as the package of all solution has been implemented into it. But you will find that the CMC is going to work and support the data services for some of its functionality. So let me log in first, and then you will find that how it is working on it. As I mentioned, one second please. As I mentioned, this tool is going to support us with administrative functionality into the centralized system. So here is my central management console, where most of the functionality of this management consoles lies and dedicated for business intelligence solution given by SAP called SAP Business Object Business Intelligence. But it do have a functionality supported for other business object tools lies into the business object category. Like you can see that in the organize at the bottom, we have data services and information steward functionality supported over here. So if I get into the data services, I can see it, all of the repository which has been created in data services window. Not only that, if I need to create the users and define its role, I can do it for BODS purpose. So certainly it has minimum amount of use over to the data services, but it is usable to provide some of the functionality to it. At the same time, as I have shown you, there is a dedicated tool for management or administration towards data services. This tool is dedicated with its specific functionality for data service itself. But it doesn't have a facilitated option like a CMC, what we are having it. As CMC is a central management console, hold on guys, just once again, sharing the screen, just wanted management console, dedicated management console. Here you can see that we have a specified option for monitoring, handling, and other stuff which is related to deal with an application. So let me go ahead with it first of all. And we have certainly some of the operations available over here. Administrative operation, documentation, and all of the monitoring, data quality management, and report delivery in terms of like job running. Okay, so I can get into the administration, and you'll find that there is tons of options we are having it. I can handle and I can monitor and I can schedule my jobs running in these repositories, categorized with the job operations. We also have server groups which is dedicated for business object data services. We can handle them. If any execution of job has terminated or anything wrong has happened, I can go to a history and I can check out the specific job execution time, start time, end time, and the information about it. Not only that, I can go and I can check out the other stuff as well to this administrative environment. Like operational dashboard allows us to look into the execution statics which happened previously, like the rate of failure, the rate of success. I can go and I can take up the reports literally for the jobs which I have ran, and I can send that report to my further people for informing them how many jobs we have run and how many are successful without having any lags, and how many are terminated or having some problems in between. So certainly it doesn't have many options, but yeah, mostly those options which is required to manage and maintain the application, it is there inside it, because rest of the administrative operation it's already been given in CMC, so it doesn't require to facilitate over here. Well, it's time to look into our designing tool. First tool what I have for designing, but I'll hold up that curiosity and I'll look other tools and I'll get into my designing tool a little later. So as you can see, the next two prime tools which we are having is repository manager and server manager. So two of the important applications plays great role over on ETL side. Any of the ETL tool, they cannot work without the repository and the integration services. Where repository let them get into the secure area to save all this development and designing, whatever done into the application. Integration services allowing them to do the execution planning, which taking care of source, target, and the transformation logic which has been designed. So here we have a data services repository manager, which is facilitated with functionality to declare any database to be work as a repository. That means if I'm started working on this business object data services, I cannot operate on any of the functionality till the time I'm not assigned with any repository or I'm not logged into any repository. That means before I get into the designing, I must need to have a repository configured for my data services tool, because the logging itself will be done by selecting your repository and specifying your credential for that. Without doing so, you cannot proceed on. So this tool allows us to define any of the database, blank database, to work as a repository. So what is repository basically? Repository is nothing but it's a database itself. But the database is secure database. The database is encrypted database. Whatever designing we are doing it, we are saving into the repository time to time. Those goes under those secured areas. The repository is nothing but the database, which is bounded by the system tables. Those system tables are making the repository or making the database highly secured area. So if you want to look into the database, you won't find anything apart from the system tables. If you want to see the content, you must have to log into the environment to see the content. So that's make them encrypted and secured, which cannot be happen in a simple database. And how it is happening? This tool make a simple database to be work as a repository, to be configured as a repository. So here we have an option. We can see there is a option to make repository type, whether it could be local, central, and profiler. In data services, we usually have one extra repository called profiler repository, where we can keep our data profiling things. Whereas local repository is nothing but the repository which is dedicated to the developer. Every developer will have its own local repository so that others are not going to mess up. And we also have one centralized repository where all the development are going to be post and centralized, where most of the users, they won't have access of centralized repository, or they might be having access for a certain period of time. Administrator has a full-fledged access of your environment with the global and local both. Then it comes selecting a database where you have created your schema, blank schema, I can say that, or blank database. These are the recommended database we are having to be used as a repository. Recommended database we are usually used as a repository purpose across the ETL category. Doesn't matter whatever ETL tool you're using it, mostly you'll find these all databases are enlisted. We have SAP HANA, DB2, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, SQL Anywhere, Sybase ASE. So these are the recommended ones. Nowadays, the list is going on and increasing into it. So if I can go and I can use it, SAP HANA, it can be used as a repository. Or I can go and I can use it Oracle, SQL Server, depending on that availability of the database. Then respective database versions need to be selected. Then the host name, service name, port number, and username, password. Once we specify all the required configuration of the database, which is going to be turned on into repository, will be filled up over here. Once it is done, I'm going to click on create, and we'll have the database assigned with system tables to be work as a repository. Anyhow, I'm going to show you this, the whole thing, but just overview I'm just giving you. Later on, we'll see how it is actually going to be triggered on. So when we going to create it here in this white space, you'll find that the system table will start creating. Here, I'm going to get its system tables. It will start showing you a list of tables which is going to be created onto the specified database. All right. So the use of data services repository manager is to configure and manage our repository. Now coming to the job server, the integration services, the services which allows us to run our design, which take care of execution. Here is the tool which handles it, which manages it, called Data Services Server Manager. Data Services Server Manager allows us to create another important services called Job Server. So here, we need to create a job server which is dedicated to the repository. What I mean by this, every repository has its own job servers, and job server task is to run the design, look after to the source connection, target connection, and the transformation logic which I have designed under designer. Whereas repository is the location where all the design is going to be held up, and job server is the servers which executes that design. So data services server manager allows us to create and manage my job server. Now it's time to look into the one of the prime tool we are having it in data services called Data Services Designer. Most of the time we are going to play around over here only. This tool is facilitated with a single environment working feature, which letting you not to switch from here and there and not to mess around with, or not to be confused around with the environment for different operations. As in data stage and Informatica, they have a different concept. They place everything in a different environment. Data services kept all the thing aside and did everything integrated at one environment so that user won't find it difficult to operate on. So here we go. Let me get into this. As I've already mentioned, before I'm going to work on this data services tool, I must have to have a repository ready with me. Otherwise, it is not going to let me log into it or start using the environment. And as a result, you can see that I'm just giving a credential with the server name and letting the system understand I'm an authenticated user. Then it is giving me a list of repository I'm having it. I can only proceed when I'm going to select the repository in data services environment. Once everything is specified, I can say that we are getting into the data services environment now. Now my whole environment of data services has been populated, where you'll find that this is an Eclipse structure which having project area on one side, repository objects on the other side, and the designing area, the wide area onto the right hand side. The area which I said project area is nothing but the area of an objects. Whatever list of objects we used to create it under designer will be enlisted under the project area. Whereas in the bottom we have a local object library which holds up all of the things which we are going to design it, like my project folder, my jobs, my workflow, my data flow, my transformation, my data store, my functions, my flat file creation. All those things are stored into it. Any point of time I can recall it and make it reusable. So reusability has also been supported by using this. But the whole thing is going to be designed underlying to this area called designing area. So let's have a quick look onto the design and wrap up the session. So here I went on, and or else I can go into any of this and I can open up. Here is my project area, where the first object into the hierarchy is going to be my project. This folder is going to be called as a project in Business Object Data Services. Underlying to this folder, mains project, will have a job. So there are two types of job we have supported under Business Object Data Services: batch job and real-time job. The batch job has functionality to have its self-execution, Real-time job is dedicated for the real-time operation, like the messaging, what we are getting it when we do withdrawal from the ATM is one of the example of real-time execution. Well, underlying to the job, the next object in the hierarchy is going to be workflow. Under the workflow, we have another object into the hierarchy called data flows, where workflow is basically for applying the logic of execution or execution planning, whereas data flow is the actual holder of your ETL flow within the data services. So under data flow, I can see that there's source, there is a transformation, and there's a target. So this is how it works, and this is how it looks like. And this is how we are going to design it. Here is my palette, list of palette. This is a palette toolbar. These are the components we are having it, or these are the objects we are having it. By using them, we used to design our ETL flow. If you want more transformation categories, you will find it under this local object library. Under that, each and every transformation has been categorized with its category: data integrator transformation, data quality transformation, and your platform-based transformation, which has been supported in business object data services. If you want to connect with any of the databases or any of the system, here is a data store enlisted, whatever has been created. So this is the overview about your designing tool called Designer. And this is all about from my end. If you guys have any question, you can go